He turned my home into a kill box, but I'm the one who is alive. This is a true story, and I am recording this on Reddit to try and shed the baggage I've been carrying for years. It is time to heal, but I must bear all before healing begins. The people involved will be known as J Toxic Male Quarter, our quarter's father, and I am a 30s female. Approximately 12 years ago, I was living in a large city far away from home. I transferred for more gainful and prestigious employment. However, my time there left a deep, seething laceration upon my soul, and I am devoted to healing. As a solo woman in her mid-30s, I didn't like the bar scene, and I was the youngest person in my office, so there were no safe options to go out, socialize, and possibly date. I was half a day's drive from any and everyone I knew, but I had my cats, my dog, and for a while, it was enough. A coworker talked me into creating a dating profile, but I elected not to engage. It just wasn't my thing because I prefer organic face-to-face interactions. Anyone can be anything online. My FB was locked down to private. Only friends of friends could find me. And I denied 98% of requests until one day Jay sent a message. Jay is not their real name, asking me how I was doing since college and how the time flew by from college to what was present day. I was cautious with Jay, as I am everyone, and kept the conversations light for a month. Jay was an educator who worked with autistic school-age students within the public school system. I worked for the state as well, so that did provide a sense of calm. Jay asked me out for 2 months before I agreed to a coffee. Initially, he was reasonably attractive, remembered what I told him from previous conversations such as movies, music, morals, beliefs, etc. We started going out on dates, and he never pressed to come into my home, stay the night, or force any intimacy for around 3 mo after the first coffee date. Fast forward to month 6 of courting, and my spidey sense starts going off. I couldn't figure out why at first, but I began noticing little things. Jay began leaving a toothbrush at my house, where he never slept a night. All of a sudden, his clothes were in my hamper, and he grew more anxious if I did not respond fast enough to a call or text. My dog began observing him, unlike anyone else she had seen before. Approximately 6.5 months after courting, my cat, who I had since I was 21, suddenly died. I took him to the vet for analysis and cremation, but the vet informed me he died of a broken neck. I was at work when he passed, and no one had a key to my home. I was sorely mistaken. I stopped communicating with Jay altogether for a few days. He called my voicemail so much on my personal cell and work cell that the message systems were full. I eventually called him and told him I couldn't continue. He was obviously on a different life path than I, and it would be best to part ways. I did not know he had a key to my house. I suspected he killed my cat, but no proof. So I tried to protect myself and my pets from future harm. 2 weeks passed, with no signs or sounds from Jay, and I feel everything is okay. It was 6 p.m. and I pulled into my driveway, but noticed my dog, Shara, wasn't in her window waiting to greet me. I was immediately concerned and burst into my home like it was on fire. The cats were there, but my dog was gone. A window behind my couch was open, and the screen busted out, but I knew the window was closed. I began calling for Shara, worried she was hurt or worse. Then I heard the sounds of something rattling, like chains shaking in your palm. I immediately stood to my feet, looked around, and went for my personal protection device. But it wasn't where I always kept it. You could see scuff marks from where it was drug or knocked off the shelf. Behind me, I hear the click of a hammer. The hammer to my .38 being cocked. After hearing that unmistakable click, I ducked extremely low, threw my right leg out on the ground, and spun around. There was Jay, picking himself up off the floor as I grabbed my .38, but it was lighter than normal. I look at the chamber, and none of the hollow points are loaded. Upon realizing this, I am met with the handle of a hatchet meeting my left temple. I see stars, and I went down. Jay tried to grab both of my feet, but I kicked him anywhere and everywhere I could. I connected with his jaw at one point, and a tooth flew across the room. He was doubled over with blood pouring from his face, and I scrambled to my feet, looking for anything I could use to protect myself. Jay was 6'4", I was 5'6", and he had another 100 pounds on me easy. I make a move towards the kitchen, trying to find a meat mallet, knife, hell, even an iron would suffice at this point. But no, everything was gone. No forks, no knives, no spoons, no anything. I realized he planned this. And where was my dog? He grabbed me from behind, pinning my arms at my side, so I threw my head back into his face and took my 4 thick wedge clogs and brought the heel down upon his right foot with all of my force. He didn't let go. He tried to wrap his arms around my neck to choke me, but his position was for a sleeper hold, so I took a great big bite from his forearm. I was thrown through a wall, on top of the toilet and bathroom vanity. We were both yelling and screaming at the top of our lungs, but I was isolated on 10 acres of land. No one could hear. In the distance, I heard a bark, but I thought it was hunters treeing an animal. I picked myself up from rolling into the floor after hitting the toilet and vanity, to be met with the blunt side of the hatchet on top of my head. I saw stars. Then I saw red, followed by nothing, but I heard a familiar noise, my dog. After Jay hit me over the head, my dog came flying through the same window she was supposed to escape from. She bounced off the couch and fit all of Jay's arm into her mouth, and then a crunch and a shriek of unfathomable pain. I found my way to my feet, and Shara let him go. She came over to me, licked my face clean, and supported my legs from behind me so I could stand. Jay stood up. He wasn't going to give up without a fight, and I refused to let this be how my story ends. It was the clash of the titans. He was grabbing my knives from under couch cushions, behind pictures, and from air vents. When he knocked me down, Shara stood over me, taking the blows, not backing down. When I was on my feet, I went high, and she went low. It felt like forever, but the sun was still setting when the fighting ended. Everyone and everything was destroyed, shredded, broken, and covered in blood. My dog's white fur was crimson, and my skin itched from all the dried blood. Jay ended up calling the cops and playing the victim. I checked Shara over, and she didn't have any visible injuries, but I had to hide her or her to run away. She was a pit, and in this particular county, that alone was a death sentence. I told her she had to hide, and she seemed to understand. The blue lights hit the driveway. She disappeared like a ghost, but I knew she could see me. She was more human than she was dog. She watched me get detained and carted away in the front seat of the Shipiashi car. Jay was in the back of another. The Shipiashi asked me who the aggressor was, and I was in shock. He suggested I began the encounter because Jay looked worse. The officer asked me about the bite marks. I told the cops they belonged to me. I spent 24 hours inside for assault. The reason why did not matter to the court or cops. Jay's father, R, was the local sheriff of a neighboring county, and Jay was released first, after my 24-hour hold. I returned home to find 15 knives, 3 hatchets, 2 additional guns, and a homemade flamethrower hidden all over my home. He wanted me dead, and he was going to come back to try and finish. That night, I dug deep into the side of me that I buried when I grew up. I got the old 3 sizes, 2 large black hoodie, my personal protection knife and fishing line, and I drove to the next county over. R never locked his car. He was too pompous to believe anyone would come after him, so I sat in the back seat and waited. He got into the car to start his shift at 4 a.m., and there were 3 Polaroid pictures on his dashboard. One of R and his wife sleeping, Jay sleeping 1 room over, and another picture of R receiving favors from a meth addict. Be caught with a bag in his backyard I acquired about 3 weeks prior. When he got into the car, he felt the fishing line across his neck. He knew who it was. I told him if I ever saw Jay near me, my home, or work again, the picture would be public, and he could fill in the rest. He apologized for his son, but I got out of the car and walked several blocks away to get back to my car with Shara waiting. Patiently, I moved a state away 3 months after everything was settled in court. I was raised to be judged by 12 before carried by 6 from before I could tie my shoes. They didn't know me in my wilder days. I never hurt anyone, but I acquired skills I no longer use. However, I will always protect my family and myself to the bitter end.